welcome. My name is Andrew, and this is the Who Dat Discussion, a New Orleans Saints podcast where we talk about all Saints news, opinions, and reactions. So, with all that said, I think we should just get right into the game on Sunday where the Saints faced the Browns. So just for some quick notes, the Saints did win 21-18 in a very sloppy affair. It seemed like just quick notes, observations and stuff like that. We had two injuries with Pete going down but then coming back in, and then Rankins, who left late in the game, but it seemed like it was kind of a cramp thing. It looked bad, but then came back. It's not so serious, so I think that's fine. He should be able to play next week. Pete should be able to play next week, because he was able to come back in the game. That was really good. But just some quick observations. The defense was much improved, which we'll get much more into, and the offense regressed, which we'll also get much more into. Marcus Williams had a really big pick to kind of turn the game around in our favor. Michael Thomas had 2 TDs. Alvin Kamara played okay, not as good as last week, but he set a high standard for himself. Also, Browns kicker Zane Gonzalez missed 4 kicks, 2 field goals, and 2 extra points. So that's obviously a big reason why the Browns lost. And a lot of people say the Browns of that game. They just lost it on themselves. That's how they've lost a lot straight. I think whatever it is, it's 18 straight, but 33 out of the last 34. I think now. So just looking at that, that's obviously a big reason why they haven't, won a game. They just haven't come in clutch. They've missed field goals. They missed field goals again. But just the way the Saints finished up that game, just quick. I would have been much more happy if they came back, they win 18, 12, whatever the score was, after they scored the second Michael Thomas touchdown. It was 4th and 5. They never give up the Callaway play. I think this is a much better win. Even though we ended up winning the game, with Breeze with the late heroics and then the missed field goal by Gonzalez, if we come up win 18-12 in this game, I think we feel much better about ourselves going into next week about in Atlanta, which is not going to be an easy game. I think we all know that. The Saints aren't even favored in that game, so I think that's going to be a tough game in itself. But just looking at it, the way we played today, we probably didn't deserve a win. To me, we played kind of like last game, but we just flip-flopped. And, you can't do that. Can't do that in this league. Look, I think we played a worse team. I think that's why we got the victory. I think the Bucs are a much improved team. They beat the Eagles. So I think that's why we lost week 1. But just I feel like there are a lot of different things that are going on. I feel like next week we could just bring it all together. Because the offense, in my opinion, we moved the ball. And, we just had some silly mistakes in the red zone, in our side of the field. And, whatever that is, if it's fumbles, penalties, stuff like that, missed throws by Breeze, who he even had a couple. He wasn't even immune to the mistakes on Sunday. But these are all mistakes that can easily be fixed. It's 1 good week of practice you need, just like the defense had 1 good week of practice. All we need is 1 good week to practice for the offense, and that will be fixed. They're probably relaxed. Coming off last week, I should say, where, they played amazing. Now, coming into, this game, they just didn't, they didn't play good. So, we'll just jump right into position by position, group by group, like we did to preview this game. We'll just do it to recap as well. So, we'll start off with the QB, and that's Drew Brees. To me, he played fine, not amazing. He missed 2 big throws, once again on a deep ball, and then one Ben Watson who was really wide open, and he just fluttered it right over his hands, and it was an incomplete pass. But for Breeze, he looks pretty damn sharp. You can't really he can get better, but he looks, to me, fine. He didn't really have the scoring drives because other people were fumbling the balls. Other people's mistakes, to me, wasn't really his mistakes. The sacks that he, had to take, I don't think that was his fault. Coming right up the middle, didn't really give him much time. So, I don't think those are his faults either. To me, he hit Michael Thomas, hit Kamara, but he didn't really hit any other receivers. So, he's got to improve with that, as well as the other, the receivers got to get open for him. So, I don't think that's much as his fault. Mike Thomas, obviously was amazing and, one of Breeze's top targets. But besides that, Breeze played, to me, just fine. Just looking at the stats, he was 28 for 35, for 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He got sacked 3 times, as I said. QBR of 75, QB rating of 115. So, to me, that's fine. It should win you games. Look, we probably should have put up more than 21 points. We probably should have put up like 28, 30 like I predicted. And, without those mistakes, we would have. But, we did. We didn't even punt the ball that much. I think we punt the ball twice or 3 times. Whatever that is, I think, we didn't really punt the ball a lot, which is good. But then, you're making mistakes instead of punting the ball, which is not good, giving them better field position. So I think all those things combined together put, Breeze, he was fine, but the rest of the offense wasn't as fine. So, I think we'll give him a B+ rating. I feel like that's how he played. It wasn't amazing Drew Brees, it wasn't a Drew Brees, but, you got, good enough Drew Brees to get wins, and as we won the game, I think, he played good enough to win, and that's all we really need from him. skill position players. So Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara led the way once again. And the whole story about this position player group, this skill group here, is that they don't have a third player right now. Once Ingram comes back, we'll have that, and I think that will make the offense much more balanced. But just looking at it, I just feel like with Ingram out, that's gonna, Kamara didn't play as good. He couldn't run between the tackles really, and I think that's what Ingram does really well. So I think they really complement each other well, and I think you kind of need Ingram back to run the football successfully with Kamara. I think both of them together really, they're gonna put those 150-yard rushing games together without or one or the other. I don't think they can do that, and that's not to say Kamara played bad because he was great in the passing game. He was making a lot of guys miss, but they had to get him in space, and the offensive line really didn't, put a lot of holes for him as well. That didn't help the scenario there. But looking at other running backs, Mike Gillislee is just, I think you got to cut him at this point. Now that's 2 bad games in a row, and it's Sean Payton. At least give Jonathan Williams the ball, because at least I feel like he's young. Maybe he can get through a hole. He's learning at least. Mike Gillislee is very slow through the holes. He's not explosive. At least Williams is pretty explosive. Maybe he can run a big play or something. I just don't see Gillislee in that role, and I don't think he has a role in the team either. You just look at it. What does he do really well? He's not really a good blocker. He doesn't catch the ball well, and he doesn't really hit holes well, and he's maybe a short down player, maybe short down 3rd and 1 player, but he didn't pick up a 3rd and 1 earlier in the game. So I feel like I don't know why he's there. And then looking at the wide receivers, it was Mike Thomas who fumbled and Ginn who fumbled. You can't have those fumbles. Those fumbles got to change. And it's not like it was even great plays by the Browns defense. They didn't even do anything. They didn't even go for the ball. They just, fumbled it. And Michael Thomas's fumble was just, he's trying to get an extra couple of inches. It's bad play. You got the first down. It was on a 3rd down, and just stop it there. Go down. We move the chains, and we got another 3 chances to get another 10 yards. But with that, he fumbles the football, and then, the Browns get it at the 40-yard line and get a field goal. The defense played fine there, but, they did, it was Michael Thomas's fault they gave up that field goal. And then also Ginn's 3rd down play where he fumbled it. I think it was on 3rd down, but to me, they got the ball at the 50. I don't think they didn't end to get up any points. They actually lost it on 4th down. But still, you can't make those fumbles, especially when we're driving. And at least we would have, pinned them deep, and maybe they would have punted it back at us, and we would have got really good field position. And we didn't do that. So I feel like there, we got to keep the ball off the carpet, off the turf there. And I think, if this happens against Atlanta, we're going to lose. The sloppiness, also the penalties. We had a holding penalty in 2nd and goal, rather, and then, or 3rd and goal, rather. And then we also had Breeze miss Watson wide open on 1st down, 1st and goal. And then he also missed Ginn, who was also opening, underthrew him. So I think that was Breeze's fault. But Breeze only made 2 bad throws this whole game, so you can't really put it on him there. And then, look at everything else. The running backs, to me, we didn't play good enough offense to probably win against any team other than a bottom 5 team. And I think the Browns, they played like a bottom 5 team because of, the kicking game. We should have lost this game. If Zane Gonzalez makes a kick and an extra point, we lose here. And that's just, to me, to look at that, to me, it wasn't the defense's fault today. It was all the offense, and it's got to improve. It's not like we played bad, the offense. Looks like we're executing pretty good when we actually didn't fumble it or get, holds and stuff. We weren't giving up a lot of sacks. There were not a lot of blown up plays. It was just stupid errors that are mental. These are mental mistakes, and just like last week they were mental, this week they're mental for the offense, and it's got to fix. I think it will get fixed. I think Sean Payton's better with fixing the offense and the defense, and he already fixed the defense. We will look much better. Not to say that maybe it was just 1 week, then now they're going to have to do more on that, but I feel like the skilled positions, this was, I think, the worst group that the Saints put out this week with, I'm going to give them a C to a C minus. To me, they just didn't play good enough to win. Michael Thomas played amazing. Yes, he was probably the most dominant skilled position player out of anyone on the field. Kamara, he played good enough, to get the win, but I don't think that he played at his top game like he did in week 1. And then also, there was no one really else. Ginn, he ended up with 5 catches, so that, whatever, it's all right, 4 catches, 55 yards. But he had the fumble, which was huge, and you can't do that. And, he has to be a 3rd option at this point because I don't think anyone's stepping in there. Maybe Meredith next week finally learned the playbook and gets better. And then Traquan Smith, who did have his first catch, so congratulations to him, but he only had the 1 target, and then he was blanked the rest of the game. So I feel like looking at it, it wasn't really a good game for these guys. They know it. They're going to come. They're going to practice. I think they'll get better, and then I think we'll do better against the Falcons there, especially because the Falcons are missing, Keanu Neal and Deion Jones. So I feel like, between, the skill position players getting better and those subtractions off the Falcons D, I think that's going to be huge. I don't think anyone on that defense can guard Kamara, for sure. I just don't see any linebacker doing it. They're going to have to double, triple team him. And that game in Atlanta, I think we would have won that game last year if Kamara didn't get out with the concussion. So I think that's really big. And Keanu Neal also played, really big in that game, played very good, with Jones also playing good. Between those two, I think that was the difference between last year and this year if we just had those two teams play again. But, the Falcons don't look as good and the Saints don't look as good. So, coming off on that, we'll see the way the game goes. But, I think it's skill position group plays like they did today, or yesterday rather. I don't think that they're going to get, a win in Atlanta. I think that group's going to play much better. And also onto the offensive line. I think the offensive line, it was average. The tackles were, very, very good with Armstead and Ramczyk. It's not even like, the guards played that bad. Max Unger didn't really play good. He gave up a sack. And then also Warford didn't play his best game. They gave up 3 sacks. Not the worst, performance out there, but it wasn't like an amazing performance by them. I think a B is good. They did stop Myles Garrett perfectly. I think that's between, Armstead and Ramczyk. So, and also the tight ends also blocked really good. So the offensive line, not really much to say. They played average. Again, I think they're going to have to play better going up against Vic Beasley and those boys. But the offensive line, they were good enough to win today. And I think, they're going to have to get a little bit better. But I think, because the tackles played so well, and I think they'll do well against Beasley and stuff. And, Warford, he's a Pro Bowler. And Unger's obviously, he's like the rock there at center. So I feel like it's going to be, much better, coming into next week. And I think we'll shore up the mistakes there. I was just going to give them a B, B-, maybe a little below average, But I think they were, pretty good. They were acceptable there. So now on to the defense, who obviously last week was not good. Couldn't get pass rush. The linebackers didn't play really that good either, and the secondary was just awful. So this week, I think there's a lot of improvement. We'll start with the defensive line, and Cam Jordan played really, really good, and he had the 2 sacks. Also, Sheldon Rankins played really good. Marcus Davenport played great on run stops. Just looking at it, Onyemata had a much better game. He didn't have the best game, but compared to last week, he had a much better performance there. And then looking at this line, they got pressure on Taylor. They made him try to escape the pocket a couple times, and they contained him pretty well. So, if you're looking, there, a couple of bad containment plays, but, overall, the defensive line played really good. I'm going to give them a B+. They got pressure. They stopped the run pretty well. So I think that's just, there was a really good group there. Looking at the linebackers, this I think was the best defensive group here. They played amazing. They got tackles with A.J. Klein and Demario Davis leading the way for the whole team with 9 tackles. A.J. Klein played much better with having 9 tackles. He played extremely well against the run. Demario Davis, I think he was, the best player on the defense to have everyone. He was playing like a man possessed, I felt. He had a tackle for loss. He just played a really solid game. When looking at it, he stopped the run, and then also they stopped their tight ends. David Njoku is not a bad player, and he's actually a very athletically gifted tight end. So looking at it, stopping him and stopping the run was basically the linebackers, chore this week, and they succeeded with flying colors. They played really good. Let's see what they can do next week when they have to stop the run against, Tevin Coleman. They'll play without Freeman, so that's really big. So I feel like the linebackers, they played really good. You couldn't really say anything wrong about them. They didn't miss any misdirection. And also they were hitting really well, tenacious, and it just looked like the 2017 defense. It did. There's nothing you could say about it. They hit much harder. They were communicating, and it just like the talent was there for that group. Same with the defensive line. It seemed like they just played much more together. And those two groups especially, they played much more as a whole, as just separate, groups, as, we are ranking them that way. But, they got to play together, and they really did that, especially against the run and, containing Tyrod. They just played really good there. Also, Manti Te'o had a wonderful game as well. He had 4 tackles. So I feel like just a lot of good things, by that group, which is, it's very exciting, especially going into next week. So with that said, it's time to go to the defensive backs, the DBs, and obviously this group played very, very bad last week, and they just played much better this week. Marshawn Lattimore played extremely strong, and, also just looking at it, you just see that Lattimore played really well, and that really helped the whole defense. So going into next week, you're looking at that, he's going to have to shut down Julio, much better receiver than Landry. He didn't always guard Landry, but Julio is still a step above Landry. Landry, he had 5 catches, 69 yards. To me, that's not not bad, for him. But also Patrick Robinson, he got burned on some plays against Landry. I think Lattimore against Landry, he was much better. And also on the outside, with Higgins, sometimes Lattimore played him, and he played really good. But see, the problem was with the DBs was Antonio Callaway, who is the Browns' leading receiver, and he kind of torched Ken Crawley on a couple of plays. Obviously the 50-yarder, but also some plays in the middle of the field as well. Just to say, this Saints defense with 2 minutes, they got to fix this prevent defense, because it's not prevent defense. It's happened against the Vikings. It almost happened against the Panthers, where in the playoff game where Cam almost scored. With the defensive line saved him, but they did not play good there. And then now this game, you're just looking at it, they cannot prevent. They never can get a guy over the top. It was a really good throw by Tyrod. I'm not going to say wrong, but there's got to be a guy to help defend Crawley there. Crawley did get beat, but there has to be either Williams or Von Bell or Coleman. They got to help over the top, and they didn't do that, and that's got to change. That was the reason. And then again, Crawley, he made a mistake, and then against prevent defense to try to get them for the game tying field goal. It's only 20 when there's 23 seconds left, and they get the ball at the 30-yard line. They cannot be scoring field goals. That cannot happen. And it's the Browns. It's not like a top team here. That cannot happen. That's got to change. I think it will. Looking at other DBs, Marcus Williams played flat out baller mode. He played really good. He had the pick, which was very good as well. A really nice pick. Read the QB's eyes. Had the pick. Also bring it down inside the red zone, which was big. For the momentum, not just, catching it at the 30 and going down. He also returned it like 15 yards into the red zone. That's obviously very, very big. And, he just got better throughout the game. Never really, got beat deep. That's really good. They didn't miss any assignments there. And none of the safeties did. The safeties played much improved. Von Bell had a couple of nice plays. But before I forget, I just want to say one play Crawley made an amazing play. It was a 4th and 1 against Duke Johnson, 1-1 play. And then Crawley had a beautiful tackle to push him backwards, and that really completely stopped Cleveland's momentum, in that first half. So that was really big as well, to not put more points up, not to put the Saints in a huge hole. That was just a beautiful, beautiful play, and that's what you want to see. The tackling was just much better from this group. It was much better from the whole defense. They played better. They played communicating. They played mentally strong. To me, they played really well. Not that much penalties. That's what you want to see from defense. But going back to, the DBs, I feel like, I'm going to give them around a B. If you take out that last, 2-minute stand there, I would give them probably an A-. But just because that happened, they let that happen. That was all the DBs, really. You got to give them that B, B+ in that range. I just don't think, they played really good, for, what was it, 57 minutes. But, in that final minute, or final 2 minutes, I should say, they just didn't play up to snuff. Breeze bailed them out, Lutz bailed them out, so they got the win there, but still wasn't, a great showing by them. It's going to get better, I feel, but it was definitely a good stepping stone. I said if they cut the points in half by the Browns, that'd be really big, and they definitely did that, only giving up 18 points. So that's really big there. So now on to the special teams, who I think played very, very well. The punt defense was amazing against Jabril Peppers, who's a playmaker. He was really, really good. So, I think Hardy made some plays. And also, you just got to look at Taysom Hill, man. That guy is a jack of all trades. Now he's returning kicks, and he did a really good job. He had a really nice return, energized the crowd. That kind of got us back in the game as well. So, you got to give it to him. Morstead had some really nice punts, he was really good in the punting unit there. Stopped him inside the 20, I think 3 or 4 times. That's really, really big. And then also going back, to the kicking now with Lutz. He was 2 out of 3. He did hit the game-winning field goal, so that was obviously makes up for all. So, good enough to win. I'm going to give the group an A-. Would have given him probably an A. If Lutz made that, field goal, it was like a 44-yarder. He just pushed it. You got to make those field goals, though, especially, going late into the season. Those got to go down. If you miss a 50-yarder, 55-yarder, above 50, I'm like, whatever. But anything, below that 50 yards, I think it's got to make that, and especially late in the season. Obviously, it's the beginning of the season, so he's just getting into his groove. But those got to be makes there. So, compared to the Browns special teams, this is what won us the game. Our special teams, played against the Browns special teams, and, that won the game for us. That's really big. So now on to the coaching. Sean Payton, I feel like he outcoached Hugh Jackson, but I don't think that's really saying much. I give him a B. They did a good job sticking to the game plan, especially the offense. Sticking to the game plan, not getting discouraged, and that really paid off in the fourth quarter, where they put up 18 points. And then, the defense, the way they coach him up coming into this week, much better. So I think that's got to give that to Dennis Allen, and you got to give that to Sean Payton as well. So that was really, really good. But, to me, we got the win. As much as you want to say all the bad things, a lot of good things. Michael Thomas played amazing. Alvin Kamara looks just as good. Defense looks much improved. So, Drew Brees looks, amazing as well. Between the first 2 weeks, he still has no picks. That's really big. He has 5 touchdowns, no picks. He'll take that for any day through 2 games. So I feel like, just coming into, week 3, that's go time. All the kinks. We did escape. That those wins are usually the best, because that means, they feel like they didn't even win that game. So they're coming in probably into watching the film on Monday, and then, going into a week of practice, just like they got to fix just as many things as if they lost. So I feel like they have a lot of things to fix, and they know that. So those wins could be just as good as wins where you win 50-3. I think that's really big as well. But with all that said, it was a win. A win's a win. We'll take it. It's 1-1, back to 500. Now it's time to go to 2-1 against Atlanta. That would be a big game. But now on to some Who Dat Nation fan questions. So our first question is from WhoDat134123, and he asked, with the way we have been playing, how big is the next game at Atlanta? So I feel like this game, it's a really, really big game. Obviously, looking at it, it's a division rival. We can't start 0-2 in the division. I think that's a really big reason why we have to win the next game. But just looking at it, they're going to be missing 3 really big players. They're going to miss Devontae Freeman. They're going to miss Keanu Neal, and they're also going to miss Deion Jones. I feel like those players are, they're the difference between, win or lose for the Falcons sometimes. They weren't last week against the Panthers, but I feel like the Panthers got worse this year. But just looking at it, I really feel like this game, I think, is going to come down to a couple of things, which I'll go into, right now. I feel like, number one, I feel like we're going to have all the turnovers, all the mistakes, all the mental mistakes that got to go to the wayside. I feel like our talent is not good enough to beat the Falcons, who are another talented team, with turnovers and stuff. We got to be able to create turnovers, create mistakes for them. Hopefully they make some mental blubs like we have been making. So I feel like, if we just make the right plays, we play it not safe. We're not playing it safe, but we're just playing a game smart. I think that's the word. Not safe, it's smart. We play a game smart. We don't make any mental errors. Our physicalities. We play like how the defense did last week, offense did week 1. I think we'll probably get the win there. But that said, I feel like the second is for the defense, will they be able to? What are you going to see from them? Are we going to be seeing the defense from week 1? Are we going to be seeing 48-point defense? Or are we going to be seeing the 18-point defense? That's a 30-point swing right there. So, that's a big difference for me. I feel like they can be like that week 2 defense. I feel like they fixed a lot of things that went wrong. There were little things, but a lot of little things compile up. And I feel like, the way we played week 2 was a lot of great signs. And I feel like we are going to continue to get better going into week 3. I feel like, between these 2 weeks, we got to shore up everything to go into week 3. And we got to play a really good game. And then the third thing is how are the Saints going to do in the Georgia Dome? I don't think we've won in the Georgia Dome since 2015. So we haven't won in like 2-3 years. So this is a big step for us. How are we going to do on the road this season? I think that's going to be also a really big question that we'll get into our next episode that goes out Friday. Because we haven't played a road game yet. Is this team going to get better on the road or worse? I feel like, it seems like, I don't know, because it's still a dome, but we usually don't play good in the Georgia Dome. Not the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Dome. So, it used to be the Georgia Dome, but they, last year they got a new stadium. So I feel like, I think it's going to be a toss-up game. I feel like the spread opened yesterday with the Falcons with a 3.5-point spread. So I feel like, coming in, I think it's going to be like a 3-point game. Either way, look, I would go probably against the spread and say the Saints. I think the Saints will be able to. I think it's going to be very, very close. And I think with those 3 injuries, I think we could be able to pull it out. The Saints haven't played strong. The Falcons, they didn't really play that strong either. They did win against the Panthers in their dome. But let's see how they do against the Saints. I think the Saints are a much better team. I think they're playing better than the Panthers right now. I'm not saying a lot for the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers beat a good Dallas team, and they lost to, I don't think, a so good Falcons team. So I feel like coming in here, I think I think we're going to have to improve, especially the offense, but I think we could. And then sky's the limit for this team. This is, these next 2 games are going to be really, really big. At Falcons, at Giants. It's kind of like that stretch last year where it was at Carolina and at Miami in London. I think these 2 games, they're at similar difficulty level, playing a tough division opponent away and then playing, another, so-so team away as well. To get these 2 wins, I think is kind of going to be like the key to our season here, just like last year's key to their season. So I feel like these next 2 games are going to be huge, and I think they could win them. I think they have a very good chance, but, they may not be able to get it. We could sit here, in a couple of weeks and being 1-3, and then we're all thinking to ourselves, well, I mean, this season's been a lost season. Or we could sit here being 3-1 and saying, wow, this team has got a good chance here. Or you could be sitting at 2-2, splitting and be like, still up in the air, and then that makes the Redskins a must-win game. So I feel like coming into this week, it's to me it's a must-win. You can't start the division 0-2. I feel like those next two after the loss to Tampa, I think we need to start 2-1. I think that's really big. So now I have them losing against Atlanta. Now I think you got to beat Atlanta. So I think this is kind of go time for this team. But, with all that said, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. So if you enjoy this podcast and, you haven't followed us already on, Instagram, Twitter, at the @WhoDatDis for Twitter, at the @WhoDatDiscussion for Instagram. Also on Podomatic, we are at the @WhoDatDiscussion. And then also you can subscribe to us, comment, give us reviews on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, and all those three sites. We are at the @WhoDatDiscussion as well. So, just everyone that, has joined this podcast and started to, listen over the last couple months, I just want to say thank you, Who Dat Nation. We finally got that first win off our back. We didn't start 0-2 this year. That's the first time it happened since 2013, so that's going to be really big. And I think it's really, it's kind of go time for this team. I mean, starting 2-1 would be huge, starting 3-1 would be huge, starting 4-1 would be huge. I think these next three games are going to kind of dictate our season coming in and how we feel. So, I mean, I think it's time. The offense had a good week 1, had a bad week 2, kind of the opposite for the defense. Now it's time to put it all together. I saw a tweet about that, during game day. So I think, week 3 is where we put it all together, get a huge win at, the ATL. Obviously it's Falcons hate week, as some Saints fans like to say. This is going to be a big week of trash talk and stuff like that, going into a huge game Sunday. And if they can get the win, I can't stress the importance more for this team to get this win. I think a lot of the, prove them right, then we prove them right. But, as, these first 2 games, a lot of people were saying yesterday, they've proved no one right yet, so I think this is the first step to doing that. Obviously, win number 1 is kind of like a first baby step, but you will prove people right with a win against a hard division opponent, so I think that's really big. So with all that said, I want to say thank you, prove them right, and who dat?